These are stuffed cabbage rolls. They're fantastic. I'm going to show you how to make them. So the ingredients for these stuffed cabbage rolls, really not that difficult. You're going to need a head of cabbage. Now, I've already cut the center heart out of this one. It's not difficult. You just make 4 cuts, kind of pry that core out of there. This is going to be boiled. I've got a chopped up bell pepper, just a medium-sized bell pepper, and a minced medium yellow onion. You can use white onion. That's fine too. You're going to need some protein. I have ground lamb, and I also have some freshly ground beef that was actually sirloin steak that I needed to use. Then you're going to need some rice. Just any kind of dry white rice is fine. If you want to cook this ahead of time, you can. That's fine. I don't recommend it. It really doesn't need to be done. You can also use that stuff in a bag that's already cooked. I don't like that stuff, but if you want to cut a little time out of it, you can do it that way. We're going to need a can of tomatoes. Now, I'm using this petite diced tomatoes with garlic and oregano, the Italian style. It just brings out a little flavor. I also have a can of fire roasted tomatoes with green chilies. This is going to give it just a little bit extra seasoning. This is actually going to be our sauce. I've got parsley and sumac. If you don't have sumac, you don't have to use sumac, but it will intensify the flavor. Greek seasoning. I've got the Cavender's Greek seasoning here. It's one of my personal favorites. And then I also have some salt, pepper, and garlic. Kinder's the blend. So we're going to get started. This is actually a 3-part process. The first part is we're going to boil the cabbage. So we'll do that. We'll also go ahead and put the tomatoes in the blender to make our puree, our sauce this is going to cook in, and then we'll start making our meat mixture. I've got my water heating up to put the cabbage in it, just a little bit of salt in there. The cabbage not in yet. Wait till that comes to a boil. In our blender, we're going to go ahead and add our large can, the 28-ounce can of the diced tomatoes, and the 10-ounce can that I just spilled some water out of the fire roasted tomatoes into the blender. And I'm going to add just a little bit of diced green pepper and a little bit of diced onion and probably a couple of teaspoons of salt, pepper, and garlic, and about the same amount, well, probably close to a tablespoon actually, of the Greek seasoning. We're going to give that a blend. It doesn't need to be liquefied, so I've got it on low. I'm just making a puree. And that sauce will be what will cook all of this in. In the meantime, we'll wait for the water to boil. The water is coming to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and put the cabbage in, and I'm going to put it in with this cut side down to begin with. All I'm really doing is steaming that cabbage, and it needs to steam for about 5 to 7 minutes before we roll it over to the other side. The water is only about halfway up the cabbage. In this large bowl, I'm going to take my ground beef. That's about a little over ½ pound. And this pound of ground lamb. Here in this Flamingo, I've got a cup of dry rice, so I'll add that. And then I'll add a couple of, about a tablespoon of the salt, pepper, and garlic. About a tablespoon of the Greek seasoning. About a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of parsley. About a teaspoon of sumac. Then I've got my peppers and my onions. Now all we're going to do is just mix this together. And the reason I've got the gloves on is, quite frankly, I don't like the feel of ground meat on my fingers. And it's a whole lot easier to clean up if you don't cover yourself in it. After you've cooked the cabbage on both sides for about 5 to 7 minutes aside, you should be able to remove the leaves pretty easily without them falling apart. So what you want to do is go ahead and turn the heat off. You can leave it on there for the moment because the inside of the cabbage is not going to be done. And we're going to just pull a leaf off at a time and roll our meat mixture into it. So I just like to set a leaf on a plate like this, open it up as best as I can. Then you're going to take enough of your meat mixture to fill the inside, like so. And then just start at the point that you feel most comfortable and roll, tuck, and roll this together as tight as you can, and kind of tuck those ends together, almost like you're making a little burrito leaf. Now I'm going to bake these. So in a baking dish, I'm just going to go ahead and set them in like so and fill this dish up. Now as you're doing this, sometimes you're going to find that this spine is just too hard to roll. So just cut that right like that in a triangle and go ahead and fill up your meat pocket, and then just kind of let the cabbage figure out how it wants to roll around that. There's no reason to leave that spine in there if it's going to be inedible. So I finished rolling all the cabbage the way that I wanted up, get my pan filled up. Now I'm turning the oven on to 350. It's warming. I'm going to take the sauce that I made and just roll this over the top. It almost looks like salsa. Okay. Then just kind of even that out. I'm going to hit it with a little more Greek seasoning over the top. And a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm going to put it in the oven and let it cook for almost an hour. It's been almost an hour. I've turned the heat down to 300 about 15 minutes ago, just because they're pretty much done. I just wanted them to finish. Let's take it out and see what it looks like. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now normally there's no way I'd take one of these out of the pan for at least 15 minutes because they need to set up, but for YouTube, let's see what they look like. All I'm going to do is just kind of grab one hair out of the back. And we're going to get a little of this sauce. Doesn't need a lot. Cabbage roll. I promise you these are awesome. When you cut into them, there's nothing like it because that meat has cooked and the rice and everything cooks together. Absolutely amazing. Give it a try. It's pretty simple. I promise you can do it. If you have questions, always email me, bill@kansasflamingochef.com. If you have something you'd like me to make, same process. Eat fabulous. I'll see you for the next one. Oh, remember, like, share, and subscribe.